Should I leave an inheritance to my cat? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm an estate planning and business law attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. And today we're going to look at an interesting story from the New York Post last week about a Florida woman who did just that. She left an inheritance to her 7 cats. So these days when you're trolling through different websites, you're going to find a lot of clickbait headlines, and this one definitely caught my attention. From the New York Post last week, it said, Florida woman leaves $2.5 million mansion and inheritance to 7 cats. So we all remember back in the day when 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙊𝙒 left a $12 million trust for her dog Trouble. So Trouble was up in New York, and Trouble was trouble from what I hear. In the end, that number was actually reduced to $2 million by a court, but still, leaving behind multi-million dollars for a dog, or a pet in any case, is a very interesting way to plan for your estate. So in this case in Florida, and it looks like we're down in the Tampa area, a woman named Nancy Sauer left her mansion and an inheritance to her 7 cats. She apparently had a full horde of Persian cats named Cleopatra, Goldfinger, Leo, Midnight, Napoleon, Snowball, and Squeaky. And under her plan, her house was actually not to be sold until the last of those cats died. In order to accomplish this plan, she had left money behind to care for the cats. So what it seems to have happened is the cats actually lived in her mansion for 6 months, although recently a probate judge ruled that they needed to be moved to a spot where they can be better cared for. And it seems now that the Humane Society is going to be stepping in and putting them up for adoption, and also trying to keep them together. So the first thing I have to say is, for some reason, it's always cats. So I've done a variety of pet trusts over the years, occasionally for a dog, sometimes for other types of animals, but for some reason, if you own a cat, and I own a cat and a dog, but cat owners love to leave trusts for their cats. And I have nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great idea. And if you have animals as part of your life at home, you want to make sure they are part of your estate plan. So sadly, pets are going to be treated as property under the law. They're not treated as separate beings. You don't do a custody plan if you're going through a divorce. They're unfortunately treated as property. However, because they're property, that means you can actually create some kind of a system, create a plan in your estate plan. So today, let's look at a few things you can do to make sure that you are leaving a plan behind for your beloved pets. Because if you have a smaller pet, and maybe they're only a year or two old, they may live for another 18 to 20 years. And if something happens to you, we want to make sure they are being taken care of. So the first thing we want to do is create that plan. We want to look around and figure out what would happen if something happened to you. You want to investigate local shelters or even not so local shelters. Shelters have very good web presence these days, and they will tell you whether they will accept pets from an estate plan and what those provisions are for when they will accept them. You usually want to look for what we call a no-kill shelter, preferably a no-kill shelter if you don't want your animal put down. So many of my clients will find a local shelter. In some cases, they found shelters that were across the country, but that aligned with their particular values for what they wanted to have happen to their cats. So whatever it is, you want to investigate those shelters. And of course, the other side of the coin is you don't have to give them up to a shelter. If you have other family members, you have other people who could step in and take care of them and care for them after you're gone, you can simply have that plan built into your estate plan that says, if I die, my cat goes to my brother Steve. If I die, my dog goes to my cousin Jan. Whatever it may be, you create that plan, because otherwise your personal representative has to sort out after you're gone what to do with the pets. And you want to make sure you have some say in where they're going and how they're cared for. What you may also need to do is leave behind a bequest that says, after you've died, there's some money put aside for their care immediately in that period after you've died. So whether we're dealing with a probate court or not, chances are those pets are still going to be at your house or wherever they are for at least a short time before they get to their final destination, a family member or a shelter. So we want to make sure there's money put aside for their care in the meantime. You don't want to give them to your brother and then he's cursing your name for years after all the vet bills and all the money he had to spend in the 6 months while the probate court was sorting out your estate. And also remember that if you send them to a shelter, that shelter may require you give a bequest. So the last pet trust I did, the pets were going to go to a very nice shelter down in Texas, and that shelter required $125,000 in a bequest for pets to be taken there. If you were leaving something like a horse or a larger animal that costs more money to take care of, that number was even higher. In this case, it was just cats, and so it was $125,000. So that's why you want to do your research and make sure you're comfortable with the shelter, and frankly, you can afford to give them that bequest. So I don't recommend doing what this woman in Tampa did. I don't think you need to leave a full house and just leave your pets in there until the last one to die dies. However, I do think what she did correctly was creating a plan for her pets. She had 7 beloved Persian cats. She wanted to make sure they were being taken care of. She at least put together a plan. Because without that plan, some court or some executor has to sort out what to do with your pets. So if you've got pets and you haven't created your estate plan yet and you want to get started, you can go to my website, 𝙃𝙀𝙍𝙀𝙀. There's a red legal strategy session button on the front page. Click that and you'll be taken to my personal calendar. From there, we can set up a 15 or 20 minute phone call to discuss where you are in the process and give you some next steps. If you found this video helpful, I'd love it if you can hit the thumbs up button and give it a like. You can go over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you in our next video.